The market of Kalor Prime was never silent, even under its gray skies, even when the rain smelled like rust, and the traders' voices echoed with greed. Chains rattled, cages creaked, and creatures from 100 worlds stood behind iron bars waiting for someone rich or cruel enough to buy them. But today the crowd had gathered for something different, something terrifying, something they called the Giantess. She stood 10 feet tall, her silver blue skin covered with bruises, her wrists bound with energy shackles that hummed with a low, cruel sound. Her eyes, once bright, were dull now, half closed as if she had already accepted her fate. She was silent, but her silence was louder than the noise around her. The auctioneer, a scaly alien with gold teeth, shouted, "A rare find from the mountains of Threxia, stronger than any worker, faster than any beast. A perfect slave, a perfect fighter. Start the bid at 10,000 credits." The crowd roared. Some cheered, some laughed. Others just stared at her body with greedy eyes. But far from the front, standing quietly under a broken sign, was a human. Just one human among hundreds of alien species. His name was Rain Carter, a cargo engineer from a forgotten mining colony. His clothes were torn, his boots muddy, his face hidden under a hood. He looked like no one important, but his eyes told another story, sharp, alert, and cold as steel. He watched as one bidder after another raised their hands. 15,000 credits, 20, 25. The price climbed, but the look in the Giantess's eyes never changed. She didn't resist. She didn't even lift her head. And then something strange happened. One of the guards struck her with an electric whip. Her body flinched, and for a second her eyes opened wide, golden eyes deep and alive, staring straight toward the crowd. For a moment she looked at him, at the human. Something twisted in Rain's chest. He didn't understand it, but that single look felt like a cry for help buried under layers of silence. 50,000 credits, shouted a noble from the front row. The crowd gasped. That was too high for most. The auctioneer grinned wide, already seeing profit in his mind. 50,000. Going once. Rain stepped forward. 51,000. The words were calm, but they cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned. Dozens of alien eyes fell on the lone human who dared to speak. The noble frowned. You? You can't pay that much. Humans don't have that kind of money. Rain reached into his coat, pulled out a small black credit chip, and tossed it to the auctioneer. Check it. The device blinked green. Full payment. Real credits. The auctioneer's grin faltered. Sold. To the human. The crowd exploded with whispers and laughter. Some called him crazy. Others called him brave. But Rain didn't care. He walked forward through the noise, step by step, until he stood right in front of the chained giantess. She looked down at him, confused. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but only silence came out. The guard moved to unchain her, but another alien, a thick, horned brute, placed his hand on her shoulder. You can't take her yet, human, he sneered. We check all new buyers first. Or maybe you'd like to pay a little more to skip the line. Rain's gaze lifted slowly. His voice turned cold. Take your hand off her, the alien chuckled. Or what? Rain's expression didn't change. He took one step closer, his hand sliding under his coat. A faint metallic click echoed, the sound of a sidearm unlocking. The crowd quieted instantly. Rain said just 5 words, quiet but sharp as thunder. Don't touch what's mine. No one moved. Even the rain seemed to stop. The guard hesitated, then slowly removed his hand. The giantess's golden eyes flickered with something new, something like hope, something like disbelief. Rain reached up, his hand small compared to her wrist, and pressed the release on the energy shackles. The lights blinked red, then died with a soft hiss. The chains fell. For the first time, the giantess took a deep breath. Her lips trembled as if she had forgotten how to speak. Why would you buy me? She whispered, her voice rough and heavy. Rain looked up at her, his expression unreadable. Because no one else would. Behind them, the crowd began to murmur again. But the story of that moment, of the silent human and the shackled giantess, had already begun spreading through Kalor Prime. And it was only the beginning. The rain had stopped, but the streets of Kalor Prime still glowed wet under the red lights of the alien city. Rain walked with the giantess beside him, silent and cautious. Every eye followed them. A human and a freed giantess walking through a slave market. That was not something people saw every day. The giantess moved slowly, each step heavy with exhaustion. Her bare feet left faint marks on the metal street. She was still weak from hunger and pain, but there was something new in her eyes now, something alive. Rain stopped near a narrow alley where a flickering sign read, "Cargo Repairs and Lodging." It wasn't a safe place, but it was the only place that would take someone like him. "Come inside," he said quietly. She hesitated. "Why? You already bought me." "You can command me." Rain looked at her with a faint frown. "I didn't buy you to own you. I bought you to free you." Her golden eyes widened slightly, unsure whether to believe his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Inside the small workshop, the smell of oil and metal filled the air. Broken ship parts were scattered everywhere. Rain guided her to a bench. "Sit, you need food." She lowered herself slowly, her size making the bench creak. He handed her a packet of rations, simple human food but warm. She stared at it like it was something sacred. "I am called Elira," she finally said, her voice quiet but clear. "Rain," he replied, leaning against a crate. She studied him. "You risked everything for me." "Why?" Rain shrugged slightly. "Because I've seen chains before, and I hate them." There was a silence between them. Outside, footsteps echoed, too many. Rain's eyes narrowed. He moved quickly to the wall and pressed a small switch. The lights dimmed. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Through the crack of the window, shadows appeared. 3 alien thugs, the same ones from the auction. One carried a plasma rifle, another held a baton still glowing red from energy. "Where is the human?" One hissed. "That fool cost us a fortune." Elira's fists clenched. She could break them easily if not for her weakness, but before she could move, Rain stepped out of the shadows and opened the door himself. "I'm right here." The thugs turned. The leader sneered. "You've got nerve, human. You think you can just walk away with a Threxian slave?" "She's not a slave," Rain said calmly. The leader laughed. "You humans think you're special. But out here, money talks and your kind doesn't have enough." He raised his weapon. "Now hand her over and maybe we'll let you live." Elira tried to rise, but Rain gave her a sharp look. "Stay." He moved forward slowly, hands in plain view. "You really think I didn't expect this?" In one quick motion, he pulled something small from his coat, a round metal disc, and tossed it to the floor. A burst of white smoke filled the room. The aliens shouted, blinded. A second later, a flash of blue light erupted as Rain's sidearm fired twice. 2 thugs fell instantly. The leader stumbled back, growling. When the smoke cleared, Rain stood over him, his weapon steady. "You should have walked away." The alien spat. "You'll regret this, human." "Maybe," Rain said, pressing the barrel to his head, "but not today." He didn't fire. Instead, he kicked the alien's weapon aside and watched him run into the shadows. Elira stared at him, astonished. "You could have killed him." Rain holstered his weapon. "Killing's easy. Surviving isn't." She looked down, silent for a long time. "You fight like a soldier." "I used to be one," he said simply. "Long ago," Elira lowered her head. "They took my people, my clan. I was captured defending them. I thought I would die in chains." Rain met her gaze. "Then let's make sure you don't." Something flickered in her eyes, a mix of pride and pain. "You don't understand, human. The Threxian clans will come for me. If they know I am free, they will hunt you too. Then they'll have to find us first." Outside, thunder rolled again, shaking the windows. Rain moved to the door and locked it. "You need rest. We leave at dawn." Elira watched him, unsure what to say. For the first time in years, someone had fought for her, not against her. She didn't know if she should trust him, but her instincts whispered that this human was different. When he turned away, she whispered softly, "Thank you." He paused for a moment, then said, "Don't thank me yet." The hardest part's still coming. As the city lights flickered outside and the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, Elira realized freedom was not the end of her story. It was just the beginning. And somewhere deep inside her, something long buried began to awaken, something powerful enough to shake the stars. The dawn on Kalor Prime came with smoke instead of sunlight, and the air smelled like metal and fear. The lower districts were waking up. Machines humming, hovercrafts growling, traders yelling over prices no one could afford. But inside a small workshop near Dock 9, a human and a giantess prepared to disappear. Rain moved fast, packing rations, tools, and a broken nav chip he'd been fixing for weeks. Elira sat near the door, her large hands resting on her knees. The faint golden glow in her eyes shimmered in the half-light. "You're quiet," Rain said, tightening a strap on his pack. "I'm thinking," she replied softly. "Last night you could have left me. You didn't." He glanced at her. "You're free now. Think about what comes next." "What comes next?" she asked, her voice low. "Running, hiding? Waiting for my people to find me?" Rain didn't answer. He looked out the window. Beyond the fog and smog towers, the distant lights of the docking bay blinked like dying stars. "We'll head to the freight tunnels. They lead to the outer ring. I've got a friend there if he's still alive." Before Elira could reply, the door panel beeped. 3 short, sharp sounds. Someone had triggered the motion sensors outside. Rain froze. His hand slid to his sidearm. "Stay behind me," he whispered, but it was already too late. The door burst open and a plasma shot scorched the wall beside him. Elira roared, a deep, thunderous sound that shook the room. 3 armored figures stormed in, their weapons glowing red. Bounty hunters. Rain fired first, 2 clean shots that forced them to dive behind cover. Elira grabbed a metal beam from the floor and swung it like a club. The impact shattered a wall panel and sent one hunter flying across the room. Sparks rained everywhere. "Move!" Rain shouted. They dashed out the back exit into the narrow alleys. Sirens blared from far above. The authorities were coming now, too. The bounty had gone public. Every mercenary and thief on Kalor Prime would be after them. Elira's stride was powerful, even wounded. She kept close to Rain, shielding him from the plasma fire chasing them. Her breath was heavy, her voice strained. "Why are they hunting you?" "It's me they want." Rain turned sharply down a side tunnel. "Because I made it personal." They stopped behind a stack of rusted containers. Rain pulled out a map from his wristband. "The tunnels are 2 streets ahead. Once we reach them, we're ghosts." But Elira wasn't looking at the map. She was staring at her hands. Her skin was glowing faintly now, lines of golden light running like veins beneath her surface. She hid them quickly, but Rain had already seen. "What's that?" he asked. She hesitated. "It's part of what I am. My clan was not just strong, we carried something ancient, power that others feared. It's why they chained me. They said I was dangerous," Rain frowned. "Are you?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Only when I have to be." Before Rain could say more, a loud crash echoed from behind. The hunters had found them again. Plasma fire filled the air. Rain grabbed Elira's wrist. "Now or never." They ran through the industrial maze. Elira leaped over a fallen cargo loader and pulled Rain up with one hand. A blast struck a fuel tank behind them, sending a wave of fire across the street. When they reached the edge of the freight tunnels, a giant metal gate blocked their way. Rain pulled a small hacking tool from his belt and jammed it into the control panel. Sparks danced. Come on, open!" The gate slowly began to rise, but the hunters were already closing in. One of them shouted, "You can't run, human!" "The bounty's triple now, dead or alive." Rain turned, his eyes sharp. "Guess I'm worth more than I thought." He fired again, hitting the ground near the hunter's feet, buying precious seconds. Elira pushed her hands against the gate and with a growl, lifted it higher, her strength tearing through the damaged motors. "Go," she said. They ducked inside as the gate crashed shut behind them. The tunnel was dark and cold, filled with the hum of old machinery. Their footsteps echoed. Elira's breathing slowed. "You risked your life again. For me." Rain checked his weapon and looked straight ahead. "I told you before I don't like chains. Not on anyone." There was silence for a moment, broken only by the sound of dripping water. Elira's golden light faded as she calmed, but inside she could feel something shifting, like an awakening. She whispered, "Rain, if they find us, if I lose control of this power, promise me you'll run." He looked back at her, his expression hard but calm. "I don't run from allies, especially not from friends." Elira blinked, surprised by the word. No one had called her that before. Behind them, deep in the shadows of the tunnel, a faint red light blinked. A tracking beacon. Someone was still following. Rain didn't see it, but Elira did, and in her heart she knew their fight for freedom had just begun. The walls trembled with distant thunder as somewhere far above, ships began to launch. The chase wasn't over. It was only growing faster, deadlier, and for the first time since her capture, the giantess felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope mixed with fear. because the human who freed her might be the only one who could survive what was coming next. The tunnels under Kalor Prime stretched like veins through the planet's metal crust, endless and silent. The air was cold, filled with the smell of rust and damp circuits. Small lights flickered on the walls, marking the path for workers who no longer came here. Rain walked first, his flashlight cutting through the dark, while Elira followed, her steps echoing softly behind him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Every sound could give them away. Somewhere above, bounty hunters were still searching. Every second in the tunnels was a borrowed heartbeat. Finally, Rain stopped at a junction and checked the holomap on his wrist. If we keep going east, we'll reach the underdocks by noon. From there, we can catch a smuggler's freighter to the outer rim. Elira's voice was low. And after that, he looked back at her. After that, we find somewhere the clans and hunters can't reach you. Her golden eyes softened. You speak as if you've done this before. Rain's lips curved slightly. I've helped people disappear once. What happened to them? She asked. He looked away. Not all of them made it. They walked again. The tunnel grew narrower. Elira had to bend to fit. She winced as her shoulder brushed the ceiling. The faint golden marks on her skin glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed again. Rain noticed. That light? It's getting stronger. She hesitated, unsure whether to speak. When I use my strength or feel danger, it awakens. It's an old power. From before my clan joined the Galactic Council. My people were guardians once, protectors of something ancient. Something ancient? Rain repeated. Yes, she whispered. A crystal buried deep within our mountains. It holds energy from before the stars. The Council wanted it. When we refused to give it, they branded us dangerous savage. They took our land. They enslaved us. Rain stopped walking. And you? I was chosen to guard it, she said. But before I could, they came. Soldiers, traders, hunters. I fought until I was captured. I thought the power had died inside me, but when you freed me... She looked down at her glowing hands. It returned. Rain frowned. So that's why they want you. Not just as a slave, but as a weapon. Yes, Elira said softly. They fear what they can't control. Rain's jaw tightened. I've seen that before. They moved on, deeper into the tunnels. The light from Rain's flashlight flickered once, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed them. Batteries dead, he muttered. Elira lifted her hand. The faint gold glow spread from her palm, lighting the path ahead. Use this instead. The glow reflected off the metal walls, revealing markings. Strange runes etched deep into the steel. Rain ran his fingers across them. These symbols, they're Threxian, aren't they? Elira nodded slowly. Older than my language. They say this world once belonged to the ancients. Maybe that's why the tunnels feel alive. As they walked, the hum of the walls grew louder, almost like a heartbeat. Rain's instincts told him something wasn't right. Stop, he whispered. A soft sound echoed. Metal footsteps behind them. Slow, steady, deliberate. Rain drew his sidearm. Elira's glow dimmed instantly. From the shadows, red eyes blinked. 3 drones rolled into view, their scanners sweeping the tunnel. Target located, a metallic voice said. Back. Rain shouted. The first drone fired. The blast struck the wall beside them, spraying sparks. Rain returned fire, his shots precise, but there were too many. Elira roared, stepping forward, her hands blazing gold. She struck the ground with her fist. The tunnel shook. A wave of energy pulsed outward, sending the drones flying like dust in a storm. The metal walls rippled as if alive. When it was over, silence fell again. Elira stood breathing heavily, her eyes glowing bright as suns. Rain stared at her. That wasn't just strength. She looked afraid now. I told you. It's not only power, it's life energy. The crystals echo. If I lose control, it could destroy everything near me. Rain holstered his weapon. Then we make sure you don't lose control. You don't understand, she said quietly. That power killed my sister. She tried to use it to protect us. It consumed her instead. Rain's voice softened. Then we learned from her mistake. Together. Her gaze lifted to him. Why do you keep helping me? You could leave? Because I've seen too many people left behind, he said simply. And I'm done walking away. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum in the tunnel faded, replaced by the faint sound of flowing water. Ahead, they saw a faint blue light. The underdogs, Rain said. We're close. They reached a rusted hatch leading to a small cavern filled with glowing water and broken ships. But before they could enter, a voice echoed from above. Well, well, the human and his pet giantess. Rain froze. He knew that voice. From the shadows above the ledge, a tall alien stepped out, armored in black. His scarred face twisted into a grin. Hello again, Carter. I told you we'd meet soon. Elira's fists clenched. Who is he? Rain's eyes turned cold. My old commander, the man smiled. You stole what belongs to the council. Hand over the giantess and I might let you live. Rain raised his gun. You'll have to take her. The commander's laughter echoed through the tunnel. Oh, I intend to. The sound of boots filled the cavern, soldiers surrounding them. Elira stepped beside Rain, her glow brightening again. And as the old walls began to tremble, the battle for her freedom and the truth behind her power was about to begin. The metallic roar of boots filled the tunnel. Soldiers in black armor formed a half-circle around Rain and Elira, their weapons glowing blue in the dark. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burnt metal. Rain stood still, sidearm raised, his stance calm but sharp. Beside him, Elira's golden light flickered across the walls, illuminating faces filled with greed and hate. At the center of the line stood Commander Varric Kane, Rain's old superior from the Terran Defense Corps, the man who had once led human troops during the early expansion wars. His armor was marked with council insignia, a cruel twist of fate. Varric smirked. You always had a hero complex, Carter. You think saving one alien slave will make you noble? Rain's voice was steady. You're working for them now? After everything they did to our own people? The commander laughed. You still don't get it. The council runs the stars now. The humans who survive are the ones who adapt, not the ones who keep fighting ghosts. Elira stepped forward, her deep voice trembling with anger. He fights because he remembers what honor means, something you lost. The soldiers lifted their weapons. Varric sneered. She talks too much for a creature in chains. Rain's jaw tightened. She's not in chains anymore. Varric raised his hand. Fire. The tunnel exploded with light. Plasma bolts screamed through the air. Rain dove behind a metal beam, firing back with precise bursts. Elira raised her arms, the golden glow spreading across her skin like armor. When the plasma struck her, it scattered harmlessly into sparks. She charged forward, her steps shaking the ground. One soldier tried to stop her. She grabbed his weapon and crushed it like glass. Another aimed for Rain, but she swung her arm and sent him flying into a wall. Varric snarled, "Container!" 3 drones dropped from the ceiling, surrounding Elira. They emitted high-frequency pulses meant to paralyze her kind. She roared in pain, falling to one knee as her light dimmed. Rain saw it happen. He dashed across the tunnel, sliding behind her, ripping open one of the drones with his knife. The wires sparked and died. Elira, focus. Control it. Her eyes flickered open. The gold inside them blazed bright again, overpowering the drone's light. The remaining 2 exploded in bursts of blue flame. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers were backing away, fear replacing arrogance. Varric stepped forward, his own weapon drawn, a plasma sword, humming with deadly energy. Impressive, he said coldly. But you can't protect her forever. Rain raised his gun. Watch me. The 2 men circled each other, the pass between them heavier than the air. You betrayed me once, Carter, Varric said, stepping closer. You refused to follow orders. You refused to burn the Threxian camp when the council demanded it. Rain's voice turned sharp. They were civilians, women and children. They were enemies, Varric spat. You could have ended this war before it began. Instead, you let them live. And look where it got you, a traitor hiding in the dirt, Rain fired. Varric blocked it with his sword, the energy scattering across the tunnel walls. You're still the same fool, he sneered. Always protecting monsters. Elira rose behind them, golden flames swirling around her arms. Her voice shook the air. You call me a monster, yet you are the one who chains and kills the innocent. The glow around her burst outward in a wave, shaking the ground. The soldiers stumbled. Varric raised a shield, struggling to stand. Rain shouted, Elira, stop! You'll bring the tunnel down. But the light wouldn't stop. It was wild, fierce, desperate. Elira's eyes glowed brighter than before. The energy spread through the walls, causing metal to melt and rock to crack. Rain ran toward her, grabbed her hands, and shouted, Breathe! Look at me! Her breathing steadied. Slowly, the light began to fade, retreating back into her skin. She collapsed against the wall, exhausted. Rain caught her before she fell. Behind them, Varric coughed, laughing weakly. You can't control her, Carter. She'll destroy everything you care about. Rain glared down at him. Better her freedom than your chains. He turned to Elira. We're leaving. Varric smirked through the blood on his lip. You think you can run from the council? They've already tracked your ship. Every bounty hunter in this sector knows your name. Rain pointed his gun at Varric's weapon, shot once, and the plasma sword shattered. Then they'll know this too, he said coldly. We're not running. We're fighting back. He helped Elira to her feet. She leaned against him, weak but conscious. You risked everything for me again, she whispered. Rain gave a faint smile. I told you before, I don't do half measures. They began to move toward the underdock's exit, stepping over broken armor and shattered drones. Behind them, Varric lay in the rubble, watching them leave. His communicator blinked red as he spoke weakly into it. Transmit this message to the council. The human is alive, and he has the Giantess. As the transmission sent, Varric's grin returned. Let's see how far you get, Carter. Above them, the storm of Kalor Prime began to break again, thunder rolling through the iron clouds. Elira looked up, whispering to herself. The stars will remember this day. Rain checked his weapon and replied, Then let's make sure they remember us too. The two disappeared into the mist, unaware that the galaxy had just learned their names. The freighter Rustwing tore through Kalor Prime's dark clouds like a wounded bird, flames trailing from its engines. Inside the cargo hold, alarm screamed while Rain worked frantically at the console, rerouting power and sealing damaged bulkheads. Elira sat against the wall, breathing hard, her golden light flickering weakly. Hold on, Rain muttered, fingers flying over the controls. We're breaking through the atmosphere. A burst of turbulence threw them both sideways. Elira's hand slammed against the floor, leaving a glowing mark that sizzled into the metal. The ship. It's dying, she said softly. Rain grit his teeth. Then we'll keep it alive long enough to leave this cursed world. Outside, Kalor Prime shrank away, a sphere of steel and storm disappearing beneath them. When the engines finally steadied, the stars stretched open before them, endless and cold. For the first time, Elira was free of the world that had chained her. She stared through the viewport, eyes reflecting the distant light. So many stars. I used to dream of them when I was a child. I thought they were gods watching us. Rain gave a tired chuckle. They're just burning gas and dust. Maybe, she said. But they remember things we forget. He glanced at her, then at the screen flashing red. We can't stay long. The Council's patrol ships will be tracking the Rustwing's signal. We need a safe system. He typed in new coordinates. There's an old mining moon, Dareth 9. It's been abandoned for years. We can land there, make repairs, and figure out what they want with you. Elira's head tilted slightly. You already know what they want. Rain met her gaze. Not everything. Not why they were ready to kill half the market for you. She hesitated, her hands trembling. You saw it too, didn't you? When I lost control. That power, it's not only Threxian. He frowned. What do you mean? She closed her eyes. When I was captured, the council scientists ran tests. They said the energy in my blood wasn't pure. They called it hybrid essence. They said it matched something from ancient human records. Rain's heart skipped. Human? Yes, they told me I was impossible. That thousands of years ago, before the council existed, humans were the ones who seeded that energy across different worlds. They called it the solar echo, a gift or a weapon, no one knew which. Somehow my ancestors inherited it. Rain stared at her, stunned. You're saying that humans created your power? I don't know if they created it, Elira whispered, but it connects us. Maybe your kind and mine are not as different as the council wants us to believe. For a long moment, the only sound was the low hum of the engines. Rain leaned back in his chair, trying to process what he'd just heard. The council's been hiding this. That humans once had the same power. That's why they buried the records. That's why they enslave anyone with it. Elira nodded. They fear it could rise again. Rain looked at her with a mix of wonder and anger. And you're living proof. A sudden beep interrupted them. The ship's scanner lit up with red dots. Incoming signatures, 2 cruisers, council patrols, Rain said quickly. They tracked us faster than I thought. Elira stood, her strength slowly returning. Then we run. Rain's fingers danced over the controls. No, they'll catch us before we reach hyperspace. We'll need to hide in the asteroid field ahead. The Rustwing banked sharply, diving into the floating sea of rocks. Explosions echoed as plasma bolts struck nearby. Elira gripped the seat, the glow on her skin flaring again. Can you trust me? Rain asked suddenly. Her golden eyes locked on his. I already do. Then listen carefully. He pulled a small capsule from his pocket. This contains our only chance. It's a data key from my old unit. Encrypted records from the Council's archives. If your power is what I think it is, this will prove it. He handed it to her. If something happens to me, you take this and find a man named Dr. Halen Arcos on the Outer Rim. He used to work for the Council before he turned against them. Elira frowned. Why would you say if something happens? Before Rain could answer, the ship jolted violently. The cockpit lights flashed red. They hit the starboard thruster. He shouted. Through the viewport, a Council cruiser loomed larger, firing relentlessly. The Rustwing spun through the asteroids, metal grinding against rock. Elira's glow intensified. I can stop them, she said. How? Rain demanded. She placed her hands on the console. The energy inside me, it reacts to machines. It listens. Before he could stop her, golden light surged from her body, flowing into the ship's systems. The lights flickered, then steadied. The Rustwing's engines roared back to life, stronger than before. Rain stared in disbelief. You're merging with it. Elira's voice was calm, her eyes burning like suns. Not merging, guiding. The ship suddenly accelerated, weaving through asteroids faster than any human pilot could manage. Plasma blast missed by inches. One of the cruisers tried to follow but struck an asteroid and exploded in a storm of fire. The second cruiser hesitated, its scanners lost in interference. When they finally burst out of the asteroid belt, Rain slammed the hyperspace lever. The stars stretched into white lines and the Rustwing vanished into the void. The cockpit fell silent again. Elira slumped back, weak but alive. Rain caught her before she fell. You just turned a dying freighter into a miracle, he whispered. She smiled faintly. Maybe we both did. Rain looked at the stars ahead. Dareth 9 is close. If the data key holds what I think it does, we're going to show the galaxy the truth. Elira's eyes glowed softly. Then let's make the stars remember who humans really were. And as the Rustwing disappeared into hyperspace, a new message blinked on the Council's network. Subject Elira escaped with human Carter. Initiate Protocol Solus. Somewhere in the void, the hunt began again. The Rustwing drifted silently above Dareth 9, an abandoned mining moon surrounded by fragments of dead satellites. The gray surface below glowed faintly with cracks of molten rock, like a scar that never healed. Inside the ship, Rain and Elira prepared for what they both knew could be their final stand. Rain checked the last of his weapons, 2 rifles, a pulse knife, and a data pad connected to the encrypted capsule. Elira sat across from him, her golden glow dim but steady. The ship hummed softly as if listening. This moon was once human territory, Rain said quietly, before the Council erased it from the charts. Elira tilted her head. Why erase it? Rain stared at the data pad. Because of what's buried here. He activated the capsule. A hologram flickered above them. Lines of old code, fragmented images, human scientists, and something else. A glowing crystal pulsing with golden energy. Elira's breath caught. That's it. That's the same energy in me, Rain nodded. It's called Project Solus, the Solar Echo program. Humans discovered fragments of cosmic energy that could adapt to living beings. It was meant to heal worlds, power ships, maybe even give life new forms. But when the Council rose, they turned it into a weapon. And when the humans refused to hand it over, they destroyed our colonies. Elira's voice trembled. So your people tried to protect it too? Yes, Rain said, eyes hard. And now you carry the last spark of it. A silence filled the cabin, heavy and sacred. Then a warning siren broke it. Multiple signatures approaching, Rain's heart sank. They found us. Outside, the blackness of space lit up with blue engines. A fleet of Council ships surrounded the moon like vultures circling prey. At the center was a massive cruiser, Varric Kane's command ship. Elira's golden eyes flared. He survived, Rain loaded his rifle. And he brought friends. Through the comm channel, Varric's voice crackled. Rain Carter, you can't hide from the stars. Hand over the alien and I'll make your death quick. Rain smirked. You talk too much, Commander. He cut the transmission. Elira stood tall, her presence filling the small cockpit. You know we can't win this fight. Rain met her gaze. Maybe not, but we can finish what they started. He handed her the data key. This contains proof of everything, the solar echo, the Council's lies, all of it. If you get the chance, broadcast it to every system. Elira's voice softened. And you? I'll make sure you get that chance. The Rustwing roared as it descended toward the surface of Dareth 9. Plasma fire rained down from the fleet, explosions lighting up the barren landscape. They landed hard among the ruins of an ancient human research base. The sky burned above them. Elira stepped out first, her feet crushing the ash beneath. The golden light inside her pulsed brighter with every breath, reacting to the energy beneath the moon. This place, it feels alive, she whispered. Rain followed her, rifle ready. The core is still active. That's where we'll upload the signal. They entered the ruins, long corridors of metal and stone filled with flickering holograms of old human warnings. Deep below, the air vibrated with the hum of the solar echo crystal. But before they reached it, Varric's troops arrived, storming through the tunnels. Plasma bolts ricocheted off the walls. Elira shielded Rain, her energy absorbing the blast, her glow spreading like sunlight through the darkness. Keep moving, Rain shouted. They reached the central chamber, a vast hall with a crystal heart floating above molten light. It pulsed in rhythm with Elira's heartbeat. This is it, Rain said. Upload the data. Elira placed her hand on the crystal. The golden energy in her body connected instantly, streams of light swirling around her. The ancient systems came alive. Suddenly, Varric appeared at the entrance, his armor scorched, his eyes burning with rage. You can't win, Carter. The Council will never let this power exist. Rain aimed his weapon. Then we'll show them what it means to be human. Varric fired first. The shot hit Rain in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Elira screamed, her glow exploding into a storm of gold. The entire chamber shook. Varric stumbled backward as light poured from the crystal, surrounding Elira completely. She rose into the air, her voice echoing like thunder. No more chains. No more masters. The golden wave burst outward, spreading through the base, the moon, and the sky above. The Council fleet in orbit was blinded by light. Their systems failed one by one. Rain crawled toward the console, blood dripping down his arm. With his last strength, he activated the transmission. Broadcast complete, he whispered. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. Every colony, every outpost, every world under Council rule saw the truth. The experiments, the lies, the humans they tried to erase. And at the center of the signal stood the image of a giantess shining like a star beside a wounded human. The solar echo had awakened. When the light faded, Dareth 9 was silent. The Council ships were gone, scattered or dead. Rain opened his eyes weakly. The chamber was half destroyed, but Elira stood there alive, her glow calm now, soft as dawn. You did it, he said, smiling faintly. She knelt beside him. We did it. He looked up at the cracked ceiling where faint light seeped through. What happens now? Elira's gaze lifted toward the stars. Now the galaxy remembers. And maybe it begins again. She carried him toward the Rustwing, the ruins of the moon still glowing behind them. Above, for the first time in centuries, the stars burned brighter, as if the universe itself was whispering one truth again. Humanity was never gone, and this time, they were not alone.